There it is.
Oh, such devastation. This was not our intention.
It just keeps
I don't
happening.
believe you.
I don't.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, it resent out a notification.
Well, sorry about that delay, everyone. I don't know what happened. I tried to close some windows in OBS, and then they said the stream died. I took a look at the website, and it was just blank. That's the official term. So we're back. I guess we should hop into Zervin?
Yes. I'll let someone else do this one. Whoever wants.
I can do it if you want.
Yes, please.
Do it.
Called forth by a Mericidian race of centaurs, this deity is believed to command the boundless expanse of eternity and thus stand above all other gods in existence. Charged with the punishment of wicked divinities, Zervin is also the embodiment of victory over injustice. The Eikons' nightmarish aspect reflects the terrible inevitability of his triumphs, and records describe the demon striding into battle, girded head to foot in armor, formed of unshifting flame.
He's also a birthday cake.
He's a birthday cake.
He has
Wow.
layers.
I think he's more of a snowflake. Get it?
and cheeks.
Ah. This was your Neela mandated pun for the stream. Any future puns are just bonuses.
Can someone commence?
This guy is the fire and ice one, which is interesting. In Final Fantasy XIV, fire and ice are not opposite each other on the spectrum. They're actually in this. Is it a dominance or a submission? I forget which. I think it's a dominance where fire melts ice.
There's been enough sacrifice for one day.
Yes, but wind
We
puts
must
out
take
fire.
the chance we've been given and
Indeed.
defeat Zervin now.
It was a little unusual. Usually in other previous games, you'd see them opposed.
Oh no, we're all dead.
Are we?
You're on Astro.
Poor astrologian.
Round and round the roulette goes. Who I'll kill, nobody knows. Let's go!
Swapping out an
What could be over here? I don't think I'll heal you guys.
Naomi woke up today and chose violence.
I always choose violence. It's so fun.
So I would just want to say that violence is never the answer, but it is the question, and the answer is always yes.
100%.
It is indeed one of the three submissions. Ice is melted by fire.
Good and evil.
Interestingly, the submissions are designated by the white triangle on the elemental wheel, and the dominance is by the black. I guess because black is in this universe active and white is
My
passive.
doubt is fled.
So- This is opposite of yin and yang, isn't it?
I pulled up the Kabbalah Eorzea.
Pretty much.
Sword just banned, guys. Wahahahahaha.
They didn't skip Sore. Awful.
For those who weren't present during Heaven's Ward, there was a meta where if you didn't skip Sword, they would kick you.
Basically, it was a difficult mechanic, and if you didn't have the DPS to skip it, people couldn't be bothered to learn it, which is unfortunate.
Do we want to just let Zerva do his transition?
Yeah, might as well.
I'll stop doing it.
So yeah, this
I'll
tree,
stop being a jerk.
That phase in this one is very interesting, actually. Sorry, go ahead, Cobra.
No, the hexagonal interlaced inverted triangles is a
Everyone in. Ah,
among other things indicating the
let him go.
complementary but inverted male and female creative energies.
I melee him. Nice, karate chop.
The concept being that a synthesis of those energies yields creation.
I can karate chop him. That's great.
I
So in
shall
this tri-
rise above all.
You see the tree of life in the center.
Bear witness to my will.
Can we take a moment to appreciate his voice acting?
Yes.
Bear witness to my will.
Also, very
Dead.
suspicious of that little six-pointed star underneath the roots of that. You see that actually on the cards, like the astrologian cards that have each what's the word, constellation on them. You see that symbol on several, not all, I think all of them actually, on many of them anyway. It seems important.
Frozen in time, my armor of
Unto a
Goodbye,
dead
Anakian.
my righteous right?
Bow to mine infamy.
Some of those ads summon down meteors, interestingly enough, and others have gaze attacks. The meteors obviously sort of make you think of.
Is this
A
what it
special
feels like to
mode
chew
of
5 gum?
yes.
Oh my lord.
Hey, look around. This is important. This is geography lesson.
Yes, this is
Okay,
geography.
fine.
And that's my
Man.
favorite part. This is where we really get to see some of Mirror City.
Like, they just, I mean, we could take this as illusion having to do with the primal fight, kind of like our synthetic oversight, but
Aww.
it's just really cool. It's curious to me
For
because
everyone.
During Sephiroth, you obviously see the drainage system and everything, and it indicates that it's inside the ship. If you look here at the clear skies, none of this looks like houses at all.
Reality has been warped in this localized area,
Right.
Yep.
which, you know, I love
Man.
that you can kind of sort of explain away the cool. It gets the rule of cool, but it also makes sense if you say, well, enough ether can warp, blah blah blah.
Auto attacks on
Listen, I can karate chop him.
You're giving him paper cuts, not karate chopping. God.
Look at
some
it.
sharp cards.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I love auto 8 stuff as Astro.
I remember
Hi-ya.
ARR, I knew a summoner who would always fight at melee so he could get his sweet token wax. Like, he was
I
a
did that
DPS
for a
increase,
while,
right?
I will admit.
I mean, technically it is.
Nice.
If such is my fate.
He's funny in a sexy way, so it's slutty.
And that, my friends, is Eorzea is most fucking primal.
Sizzle, sizzle.
In some ways, Zervin actually looks a little like
And stand out in here.
what's his name? Shinryu. The long tail makes me think of Shinryu, I should say, rather.
Yeah.
So do you think this is Mericidia? Like
I do.
the
It is supposed to be
I
Mericidia.
Absolutely think that's Mirror City. Yeah.
like the ruins of it, pretty much.
It's even got little bits of like architecture sticking out there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they like burnt up the land building like war industry to fight Alleg, and this was what happened to their
I
homeland.
mean, Alec at this point was more than just superpower. It was a global threat.
Yeah, global superpower, exactly.
They had to give it their all to fight it, and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like the final days a little bit.
It does.
Mhm.
You know, this. I always get reminded when you guys say stuff like that about the primal rings, the Allegan rings in. Oh my god. The Heavensborn dungeons. Like, Nidhogg and the Brood made it out, but because there are Allegan rings in the ruins, it's very clear that they literally escaped.
Yeah.
Like, made it out after Mericidia. And all of the Brood made it, except Tiamat and Valhalla.
Like, all these bent pipes and everything running through stuff, I'm just like, you know, what were they using? Were they using ceruleum? Were they using some other fuel source? Is this buildings or something else on fire? Is that literally rocks on fire? I want to know why it looks the way it looks.
It looks very much like kind of a fantasy oil field situation. Like with the pipes, no real buildings,
Stream's
there's
buffering.
structures and pillars. Oh, is it buffering?
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that too.
Well, we'll hop out and see if I can fix that. Having some issues today.
I just assumed it was my internet.
Yeah,
Well, if it helps
same
anybody, I
here.
didn't change anything. This is just our situation.
Well, we're also trying something new for the first time, so stuff's bound to break.
That's right. You had to tell it off. You tell it experience. Can you get mine to stop too?
Did that just now happen, by the way?
It's been doing it for a couple minutes.
But just recently, though.
4 or 5.
For me, if I was eternally talking.
I don't know, guys. I didn't change anything.
It just may be on Twitch's end or restream or the like.
Yeah, it could easily be Twitch.
Are we at least audible, or is it completely messing up?
Yeah, that is the question.
Waiting for an update from the community.
That pretty much does it for Heavensward Primals, though, doesn't it?
Apparently, the Twitch chat says it's a lot better now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I think that covers Heavensward.
Because Nidhogg was not truly a primal, just a trial.
Right.
So we're on into Stormblood now.
Stormblood's where it gets weird.
Yep.
We should probably start by talking about what is and isn't even a primal, because a lot of the things we encounter in Stormblood are not necessarily primal.
That's true. In fact, I'm not certain we fought any primals except for, like in a conventional sense, except for Emanation and Pool of Tribute.
Yes, those were the
Obviously,
only two, I believe.
Tsukuyomi is. I mean, we'll get to these, but the long and the short is we have some Izael situations and we have some primals, and then we have many fights that are just auspices. So we're gonna get into that here.
I have things to say about
Please.
Tsukuyomi and Susanoo.
Do we want to start with Shinryu, or do we want to start with Susanna.
Let's start with Shinryu.
Does this mean I have to flip to number 2?
Yes, pretty please.
If it helps, Shinryu is not listed in number 2.
Well, that's fun.
Shinryu is not a known primal entity. No one worships it. I don't think in this game. It was just a rage dragon.
Yeah, as it was put, a being of pure violence.
Ilbaird's answer to his people being so lackluster about the freedom of their homeland.
I mean, going into the MSQ angle on this, it's really depressing how little action was taken by the city-states and how it caused this whole Crystal Braves fuck noise, and then essentially the Griffin was doing the right thing.
So are you
Just
saying
take
that
his own
ignoring the... Are you saying ignoring the plight of those you might conceivably save is not, is indolence?
Yes.
It's not wisdom, it is
wisdom.
indolence.
It's not
I
wisdom.
blanked
it is
on the
indolence.
quote.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely is. Now, I mean, we know the geopolitical reasons, and we've discussed them in other weeks, like between the Autumn War, the Mad King, the Garlean invasion. Like, you know, they just didn't really feel like it.
People were like, I don't want to deal with more of that. Just
Yeah, like-
leave it, you know?
Yeah, it's
Ignore
like
the-
it's a... go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, ignore the plight of these poor refugees.
Yeah, it's like a you made your bed, now lie in it scenario. And that's very not nice, but that's the politics.
Indeed. Punishes the you might say the small man for the actions of the giants.
Now, from the Alamegan perspective, they were a bulwark that did a lot of work. And I think they feel like with a little bit of backup, they could have totally not had that happen.
Their shield broken, and they felt like they were just cast aside. Anyway, so while Ilbaird's methods were not great, it is certainly understandable how he got there, even if it's not necessarily like something I'd have agreed with. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah, it's like 25 years of you're still not doing anything. Oh, now you're the lapdog of the Sultana? Okay. Alright, well, I'm just gonna ruin everything and spawn a hate god.
I actually wonder what exactly he thought that Shinryu was gonna do. If it was just gonna fight the Garleans or what. We didn't really get a chance to see it because I feel like that was right about when Omega woke up, possibly in response to it. Someone remind me.
Yeah, something like that. But I think
Woken
his thought process was probably something along the lines of, it's not my problem, I'm not going to get to see it, I'll be dead, and they don't deserve their homeland or anything else for that matter, so if it's more like Bahamut, all's the better. He probably imagined it to be a little bit like Bahamut and just indiscriminately burning everything.
Nah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Something like that would finally make them get off their indolent butts and do something, no doubt.
They did.
Didn't expect it to fly off to the east fighting Omega, I'm sure. Man, they flew a long way. I wonder where exactly Xenos picked it up at.
That is a good question.
We never get that answer. He just
No, we
has it.
didn't. We know where Omega landed. We
Mhm.
don't know where Shinryu landed.
I mean, what we can say is that much like... I'm sure you guys have heard me complain about the zoning and the teleporting as a game design feature, but part of that, you have to recognize that the world is actually much, much bigger than our experience of it. If you just go to the maps and kind of look at the pathways between the zones, look close enough and you'll see that's a continental overlay. You are journeying So it could be anywhere in the region, and it would still be in the region. So I do think it was in Alamigo somewhere, not, say, further north.
They just gave us one of the landing spots, essentially.
Right.
And to be fair, I looked at this the other day. The that giant hole you see in the mountain does not line up correctly, directly, with the maw itself. So that could be Shinryu's trajectory.
I'm going to pour it out there and offer my alternate opinion.
I have the impression it's much older than that. It looks old, weathered, not freshly cut, but I could
If
be
you want to go ahead and pour it out, go ahead and we'll take a look, all of
Are we,
us.
we're going to the fringes?
We are.
road trip time. Or rather, field trip.
Everyone does field trips.
I'm going to try a game stream again. If it starts getting crazy, we'll give up. Let me know.
You went to the wrong one. Peering stones is better, I believe. Yeah. Because let's go to the mall.
Actually called the Yawn. And yeah, you're right, we do actually know where I'm dumb. That is where Omega ended up.
Yep, he filled it with purple goo as
you know
a
what?
prank.
I misheard you. Yeah. My fault. The yawn is definitely...
The mall. Haha. Yawn. Yep.
Yep, the yawn.
So the mountain looks like it's tilted down a little bit more. Or, like Neela said, it could be that it is much older.
It just looks so precision drilled that it strikes me as being recent.
It looks to me like they barely dodged a Death Star blow.
Sure.
That was the
I love
first thing
this
I saw. I was like, oh my god, that's like a Death Star blast.
That's actually, I'm actually going to go near it, and we know where they fought, right? So at least the general direction of where they fought.
It was in the sky over Belsar's wall, more or less, no?
It reminded me a lot of the aftermath of Ultima, actually. Same color light.
And they fought, yeah, they did fight over Belsar's wall. He essentially, Shinryu essentially caused the river, or rather a tidal wave, to just come up out of nowhere.
I guess it was the Veladina River.
I'm guessing that was it too.
Yeah, so this, I don't recall the exact cutscene dynamics, but I think they did kind of a last hit against each other, and they kind of ping-ponged in different directions. This is the hole where Deltascape happens and where Omega ended up. I kind of felt like he dug deeper, or it dug deeper. But that's the impact crater for sure. That tidal wave was an interesting thing because obviously, I mean, a tidal wave actually going on here would have done things, and things did not happen. So,
Being dead on. I'm gonna go at the tip. I'm over by the trajectory of it. Going up. Right here. Looking towards
I'm seeing
that.
the buffering again.
You're right here. Rose.
Yeah, I just cut the feed for the video. Looks like I can't handle it.
Not at all.
Can you guys still hear us or no?
There we go.
Oh well.
We tried.
We did.
Could be something worth trying again in the future if we've been able to prepare more. But
Yeah,
something
the
like
stream is
maybe
still kind of.
it's maybe
being
a little, it's maybe a little bit too beefy to try and play and stream on the same computer. All that encoding.
It could also
all
be the number of windows instead of it being just the game window up and our chibis. It's a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Well, goodness, where were we?
Finished off with Zervin, Sophia, and Sephiroth.
talking
We are
about
moving
Shinryu
on to
and Alameda.
Shinryu, yeah.
So that's why we were talking about all this.
Yep.
I suppose we could, well, we've seen Shinryu in other games. It's just that in this universe, it's not anything particular.
It really isn't, and it was, you said this earlier, it was born from the Griffin's desire for vengeance against the Empire.
I can add the battle mechanics for the fight are interesting because we see repeated mechanics from kind of all of the ARR primals.
Yep.
It's almost like the knowledge of what happened very recently in the region fed into battle mechanics and design. So the Rage Dragon being the Bahamut, the Ice, Fire, Earth, Water nonsense being the other primals.
It's also interesting that it was created out of this hatred for the Empire, and yet it came to be co-opted by the Empire because it was so generally undirected. That and the resonant itself. I do think that while Shinryu as a primal doesn't have a whole lot of characterization, obviously being kind of a blank slate, that may be intentional. The whole tabula rasa thing, you can write whatever on it, and Xenos was the one who got to write that slate out, basically. I think we'll see some parallels with Zodiac, perhaps.
So I guess going in order, we see Shinryu at the start of the expansion and at the end. I think the first primal we see is Susano.
Yes. I have some stuff to say about him.
Please do.
So, the way he is summoned is with a jewel. Now, the Kojin, the way they summon their deities is with the with the help of sacred treasures. The bead, known as the Magatama, traditionally, you see that in game used to summon Susanoo, but at the during the trial beginning, there's three. There is a sword, there is a mirror, and there's the Magatama. These actually are a representation of the three imperial regalia of Japan, of the sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the mirror Yata no Kagami, and the jewel Yasakani no Magatama. These are usually located in the Ise Grand Shrine in Mie Prefecture in the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, and the three palace sanctuaries in Kyoto. in Kokyo. And I like this callback because it's a very traditional and Japanese kind of Eastern representation of the fight. And Susanoo itself actually is the name of one of the Shinto gods. Let me pull him back up. So Susanoo is actually a kami, which you've heard the expression in Japanese in the actual Stormblood game. It's a kami in Japanese mythology. He's the younger brother of Amaterasu, goddess of the sun and mythical ancestress of the Japanese imperial line. Also has a sister, I believe, in Tsukiyomi, the moon goddess. They were the three siblings, and they were the children of the first god of the Shinto religion, Izanagi. Why do I know all this?
Japan.
Because I'm fluent in it somewhat, and the Shinto religion's just cool. I really like it. And I'm a weeb, that's why.
There it is.
Fair, Neela. Neela says Amaterasu equals as I'm just saying.
Well,
this
the thing about that, though, is that we've got Susanoo in the opening. We got Tsukiyomi later. They were going to put out Amaterasu, but as the second one after it, Lakshmi, ended up being too close of a design to what they had planned for Amaterasu, so they scrapped Amaterasu and just went with Lakshmi.
Tragic. I wish we'd gotten Lady Lakshmi anyway, so I was never that big a fan of her design. Not that I care, it's just I would have something else and I was a little disappointed.
I wonder if they're going to bring her up again, like perhaps in the Japanese localization of Myths and Legends, the 24-man they're doing in Walker, like for Azima.
Neela is absolutely correct, though. If they had brought Amaterasu out, it would have kind of conflicted with the direction that we were going in Shadowbringer.
Absolutely.
Ooh, we have a new person.
I mean, not to say they couldn't have worked it in with like this is what the legends about Azim, born from the mists of the time after the Sundering, have finally grown into, but I do think it maybe is better they didn't go with it in the long run.
Absolutely. Although I really, really wanted to see it because at the time, of course, me loving Japanese mythology and Japan in general, I wanted to see more of it. Stormblood had that aesthetic that hit me.
I was trying to pull up an image just to make our stream a little bit more flavorful, but I realized I kind of misspoke. I said the first primal we see. I'm not convinced that a kami is a primal. These are very different.
No, they are.
Stormblood is where this starts to get a little weird. Like, we know Lakshmi is. End of story. Shinryu is, for sure. But these kami, it's getting a little fuzzy here, isn't it?
It is. And kami are generally just kind of known as just deities. They're not even like, demigods or gods in the heavens. They are just reverent beings. It's it's the Japanese word for like spirit or holy powers, like spirits or holy powers. And the root of the word was traced back to Shinto as well.
One thing I think is... I'm sorry, go ahead.
They can be elements of like the landscape, forces of nature, feelings, virtues of life, and all that. It's essentially what whoever the people worship, they associate it with that virtue or that part of life. is what the kami is.
So that's in
It
real
is-
life.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, I want to point out that before Stormblood came out, it was very much implied, if not outright stated, that the reason Garlemald was so interested in Eorzea was because of summonings, and it was very heavily implied, I think, I don't think it was outright stated, that there were no summonings outside of Eorzea. And of course, now having played Stormblood, we know that's not true, same with Shadowbringers. But I just think that it's interesting that there was kind of that impression in the world that summoning is something that was unique to Eorzea.
It
There
is-
is. Go ahead.
Oh, it said it is interesting, and it's probably at least partly due to the plethora of ether used in these summonings that is so prevalent in Eorzea and slightly less so elsewhere, but there may be more to it.
There is 5 classifications, 5 defining characteristics of kami. I've actually looked this up. 1. Kami are of 2 minds. They can nurture and love when respected, or they can cause destruction and disharmony when disregarded. Kami must be appeased in order to gain their favor and avoid their wrath. Traditionally, kami possess 2 souls, one gentle and the other assertive. Kami have 2 additional souls that are hidden, one happy and one mysterious. Kami are not visible to the human realm. Instead, they inhabit sacred places, natural phenomena, or people during rituals that ask for their blessing. They are mobile, visiting their places of worship, of which there can be several, but never staying forever. There are many different varieties of kami. There are 300 different classifications of kami listed in the Kojiki, which is kind of like a list or a summary. And they all have different functions, such as the kami of wind, kami of entryways, kami of roads. Lastly, all kami have a different guardianship or duty to the people around them. Just as the people have an obligation to keep the kami happy, the kami have to perform the specific function of the object, place, or idea they inhabit. So they literally just are the spirit of whatever the people around them kind of worship. The idea.
If I might, I'd like to take a moment to discuss what the heck even makes a primal. Basically, from what we understand, it's a combination of ether, power, to create the form, and then prayer, usually in the form, will, usually in the form of prayer. In the lack of the concept crystal to build the idea off of, they pray, and that aligns, I guess, the summoner's will to a common goal and gives you what you get. I feel like kami don't fit into this, but there's some similarity. Like if you revere these objects, they could become imbued with ether. I'm not really sure, honestly. What do other people think?
I think that they're closer to what the traditional Japanese mythology kind of states of them. In the Far East, in Doma and Shirogane, or not Shirogane, but Hingashi, the Primals, they instead have what are called kami, and they worship and revere all of their feelings that they feel, or ideas that they hold, or forces of nature that come through. They each have a kami for them, and referring to that, their daily life, they don't exactly worship primals, but they kind of want to be blessed. I don't know if this is making any sense or not.
It seems like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing.
Pretty much,
I
yeah.
appease you, you look on me favorably.
What I find interesting, though, I mean, from an kind of the science of the star we live on, like, is there any such thing as a spirit that simply persists in an artifact that is different and kind of opposed to a primal concept? Is this a real living thing? Is this a straight rip from Shinto religion, or can this be integrated into
It feels
astrological
like
and primal studies of
it feels like a very, very, very close rip from Shinto religion, just because the way I say it is that a variant. I'll read this off. This is from the Shinto religion. A variant legend recorded that in the Shoki that Izanagi begetting Amaterasu by holding a bronze mirror in his left hand, Tsukiyomi by holding another mirror in his right hand, and Susanoo by turning his head and looking sideways. Susanoo is also here said to have be banished by Izanagi due to his destructive nature. So using one of those three artifacts, the sword is represented by Susanoo. The Magatama is represented by Amaterasu. The mirror is represented by Tsukiyomi. We see that when Asahi gives Yatsuyu the mirror. And that is the catalyst for her primal summoning. The Kojin use all three to summon Susanoo, the god of storms.
Actually, I believe that when we return the Magatama, is it that we found? It simply summons itself. It just manifests. That's my recollection. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So, yes, but I think a lot of that had to do with the faith that had been imbued in those objects.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is that they took the Shinto belief in kami, the in-game deal with primals, and sort of drew a line between them and walked that line. I can see interpretation.
Very, very thin line.
Yeah,
very
agreed.
Thin line.
They kind of found a way to merge them, but in a way where it's like, you can't say, oh no, this is definitely a primal, because this summoning was not typical. So it's definitely...
also kind of, it's kind of like copy my homework, but don't make it look like I copied my
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because some parts of that, I was like, this is straight rip from Shinto religion, but other parts were like, kind of, but not quite.
There are definite differences from the traditional primal summoning, even in Tsukiyomi's, because it only happened because of this artifact she had.
Yes.
Or at least it only happened in that fashion and form. But yet, her own life, her own attitude, and bitterness colored that too. So.
For those who are in game with us, 6th Ward of Mist, plot 15.
That's which server?
Excalibur.
What am I doing?
Bonnie's in my my cafe, which is going to be a hangout spot once we all can transfer on a whim. I'd like to periodically hang out there. So.
You own a cafe?
You've seen my private photos.
Oh, right. I'm not putting on an apron.
No, don't.
Damn it, I should have done my apron glam that doesn't have any pants on.
Oh my.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bonnie.
You call that business in the front and a party in the rear.
So I should probably try the jump while I'm here, right?
What? So I'm going to your FC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going to your room, right? I guess I'll take the Dengo.
So where were we?
Where were we?
So, I think we were just trying to sort out the difference between a kami and a primal, and if there even is a difference.
I was still on Susanoo, I think. Eesh. Anyways, Susanoo is traditionally known as the god of rain or god of storms, which I mean we fight him in the open area there, and it's constantly raining. And he also summons thunderclouds to kind of throw us too. And he also wields that giant sword, which again I said earlier represents for him the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, but in the game it's referred to as the Ame no Murakumo.
Something rain.
Yes. Well, it's the Murakumo means cloud. It's rain cloud or storm clouds.
Interesting to me that he sunders his platform and it is divided through the rest of the fight.
Did you say Sunder?
I did say sunder.
Let's see, oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just going through my Japanese in my head. It's Ame no Murakumo is the gathering clouds of rain. Okay. So it's interesting that he hits us with a giant sword that's called Gathering Clouds of Rain.
This fight was really fun for me.
I also liked his music. Very traditional Japanese instruments. It was almost like an enki. For those who know what it is, that is.
I think that's one of the moves.
It is one of my favorite themes, hands down. It's so hard to pick. I can narrow it down to about 20 favorites usually. The music in this game.
He's also very quotable.
Indeed. Rise to the occasion.
The seas part for we alone.
Which upsets me every time because that's incorrect grammar.
Yes.
For
Big
it's a
fucking
prepositional phrase, you use us, not we.
But you know what? It's still made for a great line.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything to say about Susanoo?
I have opinions on the usage of grammar in the service of communicating a thought.
Okay.
We is incorrect, but it's more formal, and it seems to be more dualistic, as in dualistic. I don't know. To me, it's felt like it suited properly, even though it wasn't exactly correct. Poetic license, I guess.
Poetic license is a thing, but that does not mean it does not pain me every time. That's a cross for me to bear.
So, in the interest of trucking along, I guess we should hop onto Lakshmi?
Yeah.
Snake people, am I right?
Nanta.
They love beauty.
I heard giggling.
In case people don't remember, Lakshmi was actually summoned because the Nanta broodmother's daughter was slain by Garleans, I believe, due to some kind of anger or misunderstanding. And she basically, she was basically inconsolable. She wanted her daughter back, so she called out to her god in that way to be like, yo, give me my daughter back. So Lakshmi breathes life into her daughter's body, which now stands there soulless and just doesn't do anything. But Lakshmi is very much a traditional primal in the sense of the Eorzean summoning style.
Yep. She tempers and all the stuff.
Actually, that's one of the... is that the first time we see the Warrior of Light do an anti-tempering thing to protect others? Because I believe it's Lys and Alizé are right there when this wave of tempering goes out and the Warrior of Light stops it, basically.
Yeah, to protect others, and then we see it again in Bozja. So yes.
In Bozja, we see it later with the duty where they summon Lakshmi in the meeting.
Yep.
That one's actually a fight where you have to go run around and actually do the thing. It's pretty great.
In both instances, we also see that Lakshmi is very much of that first type of primal. She's very eager to grow her power and her followership.
Yes, she is definitely summoned as a god, which puts her in that class 1 category.
And she simply doesn't seem to understand, why would you want to suffer the bad of this world? Come live in beauty with me.
Come suffer in my bosom.
Her bosom.
I don't think suffering is what happens there.
Yeah.
It is, but it's the best kind.
Is she? We see her a couple of times. We see her once in the trial, and then the second time later as a solo duty, which I thought was pretty cool.
It was, and it was very unexpected for me. I wasn't expecting suddenly primal.
Right? And for us to use our blessing to repel her tempering.
Yes, I actually wonder if that was a growth of the Warrior of Light skill, or if that was the thing we always knew how to do, and we just needed to be put in the situation where we instinctively do it.
Because, we had Arnivald helping us, too, so...
Yeah, Arnivald does the same thing during the duty.
It really makes you wonder what we might be seeing in Endwalker if we're put into similar situations of stress and are forced to stretch our wings, as it were.
I hope so as well.
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, Lakshmi's design was too close to that of what they had planned for Amaterasu. So they scrapped the idea of Amaterasu and just went with Lakshmi. I'm happy with what they did with that, but I also kind of wanted to see what their design was for Amaterasu. Hey, we could even be Amaterasu, the sun god.
That's interesting.
When Faust starts resizing things.
That is strange.
I may hate him. Or it may be like a hotkey thing? I don't think so.
Yeah, it could be.
Sorry about that, everyone.
I guess let us know, chat, once it's working, or are we good?
We should be good now.
Excellent.
So I guess I can finish my thought.
Yeah, please restart from wherever you remember starting. And
Yeah,
hopefully we'll not miss
I
anything.
think one thing we should remember going forward is, assuming we're going into Shadowbringers probably for the next episode mainly, is that there really isn't any primals on the first that I can remember. And that makes me wonder if they're a phenomenon of the source alone, or something that can be summoned on the shards.
My understanding... Oh, go ahead.
No, there are many, many primals on the first, and the Warrior of
I
Light
disagree.
summons all of them.
That's the thing I was going to say. The first itself does not have the etheric density to summon primals. People can't just do that. Eden, however, does.
Yes, because it works as an amplifier, but
right.
That's to
And
say that they can be summoned, but it requires a certain etheric density, like Bonnie was saying. So technically there are, but no one's going to walk out and summon a primal.
There were no primals prior to our arrival.
Right.
Yeah,
The only
Eden,
ones there are created by us and immediately dispatched.
Yeah, Eden is a special case that would be unique to the situation that it was in, not something that would generally be a rule.
Right.
So I guess in that sense, then probably there wouldn't be any primals on other shards, unless there is some kind of like Eden-like thing going on.
Which actually makes me wonder if primals were instrumental to cause the rejoinings. How did they do it in the first and second eras?
What do you mean by primals causing rejoinings?
Like, what I was imagining from what Cove just said is that the Warriors of Light on the first went through various trials and tribulations to become Warriors of Light, but they didn't necessarily need primals in the same way that we fought them on the Source to grow and power ourselves. So maybe they didn't need primals?
Maybe, but we do know that primals were summoned on the 13th, and the 13th also didn't have the etheric density.
The things that on the 13th were not primals, those were actually the Warriors of Light themselves, just corrupted by Arasite. Because, okay, I apologize. You're right. I step back. They had bound these primal in the Arasite. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I have thoughts on this. I don't know if they're going to be canonical or not, but if you don't mind, I can go into it.
Go ahead.
So, the whole concept of rejoining it, to my mind, the source has to be primed. This goes into your wavelength video, actually. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it's kind of conceptually similar, where you have to prime the source to be roughly the same wavelength as the shard you're rejoining. And so if you have, say, the 13th, which is aspected darkness primarily, you would need the source, theoretically, to be pushed towards darkness as much as possible to absorb that ether.
Okay.
So, in short, every single rejoining we have has a calamity of the relevant element here on the source. So, I think Bahamut was an omni-color rejoining.
Yeah, I think it was just umbral energy.
Yeah, just like
Yes.
all elements rejoining.
All levels
and
at
then,
once.
And then we have a flood calamity, we've got an earth calamity, we have a wind calamity, we have a scorch calamity. My sense is that La Habrea was using the primals to prime Hydaelyn in a certain color direction, and then combining that with whatever they were doing on various shards to make sure it aligned with the sort of ethereological color of that shard.
I agree. I do think there
I
are
like that.
probably ways they can do it without primals, but I imagine primals are likely a very easy way to do it.
Right. I like that explanation. I'll
I
take
was
it.
thinking about this the other night, actually, and it was so we're in this era now where we've just fought how many different primals? It's crazy. Like, when on Earth elsewhere, and what other time would La Habrea be trying to summon Ifrit, Garuda, Leviathan, Titan? You follow me? All at once?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be during the era where the omnicolor rejoining is supposed to be taking place. So the timeline's a little frosty because obviously Bahamut happens before we show up in ARR, but those primals were still existing in 1.0.
Before.
Like there was a Garuda fight then as well.
It could
So-
be that it's a Pandora's box situation once the primal's out of the box, until all of its summoners and people who would
Right.
cry out for succor to it are gone, that you can't put the primal back in the box.
Exactly. And it's kind of a win-win for them because either way, the primals are draining ether from Hydaelyn Mother Crystal and reducing her strength. So it's still a win on that front, and it seems just by the way they've run the story regarding the hasn't happened in our timeline flood of light, they had primed the first for a rejoining and then unleashed a light bomb on the source.
Yep, and there was all that etheric thinning as well from the first being so unexpected. Actually,
right, so
that brings
it's a
another
different
interesting...
technology. Every rejoining, they use a different tech to get the result done.
That actually brings up another interesting thing. The reason that there was this etheric thinning, the ether going still on the source, was because the first was already primed toward light and it was already seeping in. So they don't necessarily need the primals on the source to do it. They just have to aspect the shard and wait for it to take effect, it sounds like. However, I'm sure the primals hasten it. And of course, La Habrea talking on and on about a confluence of chaos that would help his god be reborn. So I'm sure that plays into...
But also, mwahahaha.
Pathetic.
Must
yes.
needs be cleansed.
Y'all slay me.
Thank you for indulging me that.
I'm glad to have contributed my thoughts. That made me happy. My goodness.
All right.
I guess we should wrap up.
Yes.
Next week, where will we be starting? I guess we'll be starting at goodness. Somebody else talk.
I'm not sure we had any true primals. Well, okay, I don't know if we had any true primals in Shadowbringer's big ol' asterisk, because Hades was odd, and as the card suggests, it's possible that he became primal second form. We just don't know, canonically. We have some strong opinions on the matter, of course.
I would argue he did not.
I would also argue he didn't, but, I mean, it's really up to debate.
It's hinted that there's a possibility, but it's certainly not canonical or anything. So all the light...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say all the Light Wardens were Light Wardens, not truly primals. And then we got the emerald, the werelit weapons, which seem to be a synthetic, almost primal-like, but definitely not actually primals. They seem to mimic some primal abilities without being primals themselves.
Yeah,
They're
the
like
whirlwind
biomech
weapons
suits.
actually nommed on primals to charge up their synthetic foresight, but that's about where their connection ends, because we don't even know what primals the weapons nommed on. So the only other real primal connection we have for Shadowbringers would be like from Bosnia.
That's basically all the primals, the true primals.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think part of the FanFest, they were discussing it being called New Threats. They're not going with primals anymore. They've kind of
Yes.
used them all up and gone a different direction. It does make me think of primals as kind of almost like fundamental, incidental things that happen when you aspect a certain direction in summon. It's almost...
Old hat.
It's weird.
Yeah, and it also makes me wonder, after Endwalker, what will be the state of primals as an entity, as a concept? Like, are there going to be any more? Are there going to ever be, like, any more, like, trials involving primals? Or are they just going to be gone when Idol and Zodiac are resolved?
I deposit things like Azem fighting the Ifrita concept, where they took the fire ether from the volcano, made Ifrita, and kicked its butt. That
could
I
be
would
interesting.
doubt it we would see anything beyond much like that, however. That was incidentally much like what we did with Eden.
It also makes me curious to see what will happen with the summoner and scholar jobs.
I
It'll
would
be
love to see them go in the direction of... I mean, I know that we don't want a million different sub-phases where we're summoning various different... just for rotational purposes, but I think it would still be cool as hell if, we start summoning not just Phoenix and Demi-Bahamut, but also, like, Demi-Shiva and others.
Right, just like we can learn and unlock so many more primals and then turn them to our will, and that can be maybe their continuation is that they return to something like they were in the ancient world, a tool or something to experience and enjoy as a concept rather than something to fear and fight.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
or even something to embody, like a Zem embodying some kind of concept.
I'm really
Alright.
hoping that if Summoner's getting reworked, that they're just going to go all in on the trance system.
Well, we are way over time.
We are.
Yep.
Well, I guess we'll be probably picking up next week on the same topic, but we're going to have some discussion as to where we're going to go with it exactly. We might even have a 2-topic session, but we'll discuss offline. Thank you all for joining. I had a lot of fun as usual, and I hope to see you all next week.
If there's something people want to hear about, especially since we may be doing the 2-topic thing, hit us up in Discord and let us know.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
All right, talk to you all next time. Thanks for coming. Oh, yes, Bonnie. She's hitting the bus. Yeah, please join our Discord. Follow us on Twitter. And we love Twitch followers.
Yes. My apologies for messing with your focus on the discussion. I am the group's bard.
I know how it's when you're rocking out, huh?
How dare.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
everyone.
It's
The game is really good.
it's my RP profession on Tuesday nights. Wink.
All right, say goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Ciao.